Let's do that.
Oh, you had to switch the mic source there.
I switched the mic source on the video.
That might help. That might help.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like, because one of it was coming from these earplugs.
Oh, gotcha. Well, in any case, welcome everyone to another edition of the Whitepill podcast. Here with me, I have Grapplingdev. Thank you for taking the time today to come on. Appreciate it.
You are welcome.
So I met you on X, but naturally, like with most of my moods, I don't really know anything about them besides like the intro. And just going off here, it says you're a brand designer.
I am now, yeah.
How did you come across that profession?
It's kind of funny. Well, I mean, it's a podcast, isn't it? So I guess I can give you the long story. So when I was a kid, so I'm like 33 now. Yeah, don't force dark mode; it won't work.
No, I would never. For a designer, I would never. No, I would never.
So when I was a kid, I was like really obsessed with art. Like I would draw. I'd get like the game magazines, and I would like copy every single picture. Like I have a vivid memory of copying like a big Ninja Gaiden image and stuff. And I was like obsessed with like Claude Monet for some reason, like the impressionist artist. I don't know why. It's the only subject I cared about at school as well. But then I left school and joined the army, like straight away at like 15. So none of the education mad. Did that for 12 years. Got out. Got into DevOps. Did some engineering. Went into engineering management. And then that's when I started working with the design teams more. As like, cause it was like defense tech startups, right? So it was very scrappy in that it was me and my engineering team, and I was working with a designer to always make sure the designs are ahead of the engineering team, so they can actually deliver, right? But that meant a lot of the time giving more feedback and working closer with the design so that they can actually make sure it's ahead and stuff. So that was the first company. Then the second one, I started doing more wireframes, but they actually really pissed me off because they told me that I wasn't allowed to do wireframing because I don't have a degree. Wireframes. I was like, okay. I mean, I'm just trying to get things done. You know, I'm just trying to ship things. My team can't engineer something that isn't designed, so let me just wireframe it at least, right? Nah, not allowed. So that really pissed me off. So fast forward, I had a stint at Roadmap. They fired me after like 7 months, and then I figured I'm not working for anyone else again. I don't like it. I don't like working for people because it's not like it used to be, is it? It's not like it was pre-COVID. I feel like pre-COVID, you could join a company, and if you wanted to stay there for the rest of your life, you could. That's just how it worked. Now that's not the case. So I didn't enjoy living with this like perpetual feeling of it's all going to get ripped from underneath me. So now I can't be sacked because now I work for myself. So I figured, I was trying to think really hard. I was like, what would I want to do for a living that I would enjoy every day? That's what I was really trying to pinpoint. And a reason why I took the role at Roadmap was because I was told that I'd be getting to do a lot of content creation, right? A lot of social media assets, a lot of interviews, a lot of YouTube content. And I did to an extent, but it wasn't enough. So now I figured, well, now I can do as much content as I want because content is technically marketing. And I love designing things. So why don't I just do it? I don't need a degree. to start my own business. So it was a bit of spite mixed with a bit of you can just do things, mixed with a bit of I actually do really enjoy it. And I've been told, people have told me that I'm good at it. So that combination of things worked well. That's why I'm here now.
Interesting. So, I mean, when it comes to brand design, because it's not like it is certainly part of it as an art form, but because it has that
Mhm.
that economic, not incentive, but kind of feedback loop of trying to do better each quarter. And each quarter, there's a part of it that has to be, I guess, scientific. I don't know if that's like the right word for it, calculated in a way.
Mhm.
But do you still find that it allows you to like play with that creative side? Because I know that like it when someone gives you like an idea for a logo or a brand, I would imagine that there's like very certain guardrails like that you have to stick within.
Well, I mean, says who, really? You know, I mean, there's the obvious things like accessibility. I think as long as you have like accessibility done, like the colors are readable by people,
Hmm.
the rest of it's just taste, isn't it? Really, like it depends on the brand, doesn't it? But I mean, I guess the bit that I really enjoy is it's the same with tech, right? You can have somebody that has a really good idea in their head about a tool they want to make or a process they want to create, but they don't have the technical aptitude to create that thing,
Hmm.
right? It's the same with branding and design. Like people can have this image in their head of like, oh, I want this brand, and it's a beer, it's an IPA brand, and it's rooted in the South Coast, and it's all about surfing, but they don't know how to put that together into something that looks nice and that's received well. That's a fun part of it, for sure.
Interesting. And in the world of like brand design, what do you make of some of the rebrands that major companies have been doing? Like the one that comes to mind would be like Walmart, that uh they made their logo more bold. I don't know if you saw their
Yeah, yeah,
redesign
yeah,
there.
yeah. I saw it.
What do you make of that kind of stuff when they just add like little touches here and there, but it doesn't really amount to much? Like it ends up like being a meme, like someone here posted.
Oh, Walmart posted that themselves.
Oh wait, oh I just noticed. Holy shit.
Yeah, they memed their own thing, which is genius.
That's smart.
Nah, it's good. Like, I think what a lot of people are missing here is um, Walmart will have a design team,
Hmm.
right? They'll have like a permanent design team. So it's not like people are like, oh, somebody got paid 20 grand for this. No, they didn't. No. A salaried design team redid it. So that's one thing. But I mean, you can't deny it does look slightly more 2025, right? Did it need to be done? Probably not. But does it hurt? No. Looks nice. I don't. It's this one is fine. It's Jaguar. Like this one and Sandisk. Sandisk was really good.
I heard about
Like I
that one,
really
yeah.
liked their one was really nice. Like they did a whole like launch video on it where they explained like every piece of it. Like the launch video of the rebrand itself is art. Like really good. Like it's super clean.
Whoa.
And the thing, yeah, the thing with SanDisk is like they've always been there, right? Like they are like the micro SD USB brand that everyone gets for cheap from the supermarket, right?
Hmm.
So they've always been there. But this, like, I think this really establishes them as like a serious, a serious brand rather than they're the ones that when you need a last minute USB, you just go to the supermarket and buy it for like £3 or something. So this one was cool. The Jaguar one is a little bit crazy.
What do you make of that one? Because like, how is it that uh, I would assume a multi-billion-dollar global brand that sells luxury vehicles that they
Mm.
would go for something like this? Is it just like, can we explain it away with just like DEI? or that they outsourced it? Because I genuinely I don't know what the full story is behind this.
I don't. But I can give my guess. So this is all what I'm seeing. So Jaguar is a British company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their demographic, I believe Jaguar's previous demographic would have had to have been like 50-year-old males, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the UK at least. Jaguar stood out amongst all like the German cars of like Mercedes, Audi, BMW. They were like the younger business professional car. Jaguar always stood out as like the older, more Sunday drive car
Mm-hmm.
of like an older man, right? My only guess is that demographic are aging and they're going. So they need to find a new demographic, I guess. I mean, if you look at it, cars look cool.
They do.
I mean, they look nice. I mean, it's maybe they just, cause, you can't play to the same demographic forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 50-year-old males that they used to. When I was younger, my family had a Jaguar at one point. I think, like an old one.
Mm-hmm.
That demographic are like 75, 80 now. So they're aging out, So maybe it's time for them to modernize.
Maybe.
It will be interesting to see that car on the road. That's for sure.
Yeah, it almost strikes me in the same way that the Cybertruck does. It's a one of one. You can't really compare it to anything else. Which, in all honesty, like I'm all for. I'm frankly sick and tired of seeing the same fucking design on sedans and all these different vehicles, the same kind of shape, the same colors. I would love to see more
Yeah.
vibrance on the street, and you only really get that with exotics, and not everyone can afford it. I'd like to see more of that kind of revival. I mean, the only other time that I could remember, and I'm not a car guy by any means, but the only other thing that I could really remember being as like having like as colorful of an impact would be like when smart cars came out,
Yeah. Yeah, they were different, weren't they?
or Mini Coopers.
Yeah, especially the ones that have the entire roof as a Union flag.
Which is baller, by the way. To have your nation's flag on a fucking car, that's amazing. Like nobody else does that. Nobody
Yeah.
else.
No, you don't really see them anymore. Funnily enough, it's interesting what you say. Like, if I'm out with my daughter, walking or something, sometimes we'll like name all the colors of the car. Yeah, she's nearly 2, so that's what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because it's always like black, white, grey, black, black, red, black, grey. It's always just
Mm-hmm.
the same colors. There's nothing crazy. There
Yeah.
is some like random lime green cars going around, and for a while, Ford had an ST model that it shipped default as orange. If you do like or RS, I think it was. No, the RS was green, maybe. Yeah, that orange. Yeah, that was like the default, and the green. Yeah,
That's not a bad color.
they tried. Yeah,
Certainly
but
not a
you're
bad
right. It's kind of like a supercar thing, isn't it? It's like a Lamborghini down the road. That's like bright blue.
Exactly, yeah. I'm all for incorporating more design and this aesthetics into daily life. I mean, when it comes to anything, like not just cars and whatnot, but architecture as well, or even this one artist in Toronto. He did this whole like not experiment, but he was playing around with this idea of like what happens when a wall of graffiti gets painted over by the city, and it's typically in this like shit gray brown, like just these awful colors that don't look like anything. And he was making the argument, he's like, well, look, I mean, what are the chances that the colored paint actually costs more? And if it does, like, does it really cost that much more to use? Like, they're just using this gray because it because it matches the wall. Fine, I get it. But wouldn't it be more interesting to like see all these different colorful layers going over the graffiti so that it's kind of like leaving an
Well,
artistic like piece of its own?
it's interesting because I'm gonna DM you. If you, I'm trying to go. If you search for like these two terms, so I live in the second one now, but I used to live in Bristol, and these two areas love graffiti. Like the council will pay for it to be done, like all up the walls and stuff. And bearing in mind, Banksy is from Bristol as well, so there's a lot of like original Banksys on the walls and stuff still. But there's like a bunch of on the side of people's houses. They'll just have like the entire wall done. Bournemouth's really good. Bournemouth has like huge ones on the side of buildings, and these are paid for by the council. Like, look at that. That's so good.
That is massive.
Yeah, it
Wow.
just chills. Like that's in the open, just there, like on a main road. Great.
That is so
And they have
impressive.
like elephants. There's like an elephant one. If you search for like an elephant one, they have like yeah, look at that. That's like
Wow.
right above. Yeah, really cool. So it's not like a. They actually see it as like adding to the culture, which is nice.
That's great. That's some really good stuff because there is quite a few like parts of Toronto that have this kind of street art on it. Not enough in my opinion, but that is great. That's good. Great to hear that the council's behind it too, so that it's not just like, you know, artists taking it in their own initiative, that they're actually supporting these people.
Yeah, my wife works at a school, and they actually just paid somebody to come and do a whole wall as well. Let me see if I can find it. Probably not. We probably send each other a lot of pictures. I'll search for like 10 seconds. If I don't see it, for Christmas, probably. Searching. Probably not. No. But yeah, the school that she works at paid to have a whole wall done, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. This here, what I'm showing is this is a place in Toronto. It's called Graffiti Alley. It's kind of notorious spot. A lot of artists come here to make their mark. Most of the pieces remain untouched, except like little throw-ups like this. Um, but it's just something that the city's kind of not a. I mean, yeah, I guess
Spawn.
they basically
The
just
Spawn
allowed
one's good.
the spawn. Oh yeah, the this one. Let me pull that up. Oh come on,
It's
Street
also
View.
cool that that Google's been down there as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like an infamous spot. That like I see tourists here all the time. So there's quite a bit of action here. I don't know many of the artists that have done work here, but you'll see a lot of their stuff pop in around the city. And while it's on everyone's taste, like fair, fine, like by all means, the art gallery's that way. You're more than welcome to go. But it's important to have outlets like this.
There was a really good one in London when I was working there. I'd go in like once a week, and when Diablo 4 came out, Diablo 4 graffiti. Yeah. So let me send you this. This is on Reddit. It's images, but this was actually
This
was
piece here?
painted. Where are you? Yes. That doesn't do it justice. It's huge, and it's not just like a big sticker. Look, it had people on cranes, hand spraying it, the whole thing. It was really good. I saw it get
Wow.
done. It took weeks. It took weeks for them to do.
That
You
is
got
a
to think
massive piece.
like who made Diablo? I don't know who made it, but they paid. They paid for this to get done, which is crazy. They could have just done a billboard, but they didn't. They paid someone to paint the entire side of the building, and it's not even in like a main area. That's what's funny. It's in like a side cut through.
Hmm.
It's not even a main area.
I guess they figured if enough people saw it in the age of social media, that eventually people would crowd around to it. I guess it was more about like
Oh, yeah.
taking canvas space than it was about anything else.
Yeah, I guess you're not going to do that in central London, are you? So.
No, I would imagine not.
I
Actually,
mean, I did buy the game. I bought the game after seeing that. To be fair, so
it worked.
it worked for me. Yeah.
What do you make of Banksy? I'm curious.
Um. Well, I don't really care for politics. I know a lot of his is politically motivated,
Hmm.
but I think it's cool. I think it's cool that we still don't know who it is. That's fun. Fun to know. Like nobody knows who he is. People are pretty sure he's from Bristol, but nobody knows who he is really. Like I'm pretty sure it hasn't been revealed. Like it's not them people. Like they're famous people in the UK, but it's not them. I think the closest one is no one knows it. That's why it's still fun.
Yeah, without him
But
coming
I
out and
don't like.
confirming himself.
Yeah, I don't think he ever will. To be fair, I don't think he ever will. I don't like how it's that you see sometimes like somebody he'll throw one up, and then people will literally rip it down to like sell it. I don't like that. That's kind of I don't know, kind of ruins it quite a lot.
Yeah, well, not even to mention his residency in New York. There were a lot of artists that were not down with him coming on their turf, and they made it known. I'm gonna see if I can find the video, but there was one piece that Banksy had finished. The people had just discovered it, and a graffiti artist came over and just sprayed all over it. Um, Man, I'm gonna be hard pressed to find it, but at least when he was there, a lot of people were like, some of the artists there, they were like, "Yeah, fuck this guy. Who the fuck does he think he is coming on our turf?"
It's kind of weird. Like he has the whole of the UK. Why why go to New York and do it? It's a bit weird.
Not sure. A lot of art there. Huge graffiti scene. Arguably where it started. But I mean, graffiti's been around
True, but
since man ever painted on walls.
true. That is true.
Have you seen the documentary on him called "Exit Through the Gift Shop"?
Probably not.
I'd
Maybe I
recommend it
should.
if you have some time. Um, it's an interesting one because it's actually not so much about Banksy, but about his one of his videographers that was following him around and taking a lot of video of him. Won't spoil it, but basically it became this whole weird journey where at the beginning it was about Banksy in the art scene, Shepherd Ferry, and this is like in the early 2000s before even the 2010s. Um, like right as street art was kind of popping off in the zeitgeist, and then it just follows this whole story of the guy that essentially helped, like didn't help popularize like Banksy. He had enough of a following even then, but he just became part of the mythos in a way that is very unexpected. And I'm pretty sure the guy is still out there doing a lot of his own pieces. Highly recommend it. It's a great watch.
Yeah, well.
But besides that, you said that prior to your work in design, that you had gone into the army?
Yes. Yeah, 12 years. Well, 11 and a half, but I round up.
And you said it was right after school that you went into the army.
Yeah, right after. So we have um we have terms at school. I don't know how. I never understood grades in like the US and stuff, like grade 1, and I don't understand the ages of grades.
Mm-hmm.
Over here we have 12 years. Technically 13. Well, no, technically 12. There's reception, where you're just a little kid. You're like 4 or 5. And every year, it's year 1 through to 6, primary school. Then you go to secondary school, which I guess is like high school. Until you're like, well, back then it was until you were 16. Then you would either go to college or sixth form, or you could just leave. Now you can't, I don't think. I think now you have to stay till you're 18, which is kind of crazy. But we, like, what's the main exams you have at your schools? Like, say, like high school.
Well, in Canada, we don't have any standardized exams except the one that you do in grade 9. At least here in Ontario, my province, it's like a basic reading, writing comprehension. The whole test is designed just to make sure that you can read and write. But after that, there's not really any kind of standardized tests to like get into university or anything like that. You just kind of you look at the program that you want to do in university, and then there's certain courses that they require you to do in high school and get a certain average in order to apply for the program. So it's not so much as like in the US where they have the SATs. We just have to get good enough grades here to, go into your program basically.
Oh, so here we had, I don't know what it is now, but we had GCSEs, which everybody had to do. Doing them allows you access to get A levels. Doing A levels allows you access to do a degree in university and stuff, right? I didn't do any of that. So while we were doing GCSEs, so GCSEs is like months before the summer break. Like months you're just in and out of exam halls and stuff, right? So I did my selection for the army during that period. So like on a weekend, it was early in the period, so I don't think I'd even done any exams. I went to selection over a weekend and I passed. So I was doing my GCSEs knowing that I basically wasn't going to use them and they didn't really matter. So it was like a strange situation. I still did okay, I think, but I didn't care for them too much. So after that summer break, all my friends went to college or sixth form. Sixth form is where you stay at the same school, but you don't have to wear school uniform anymore. It's like an extra year. I don't get the point. It's just a flex. It's weird. I don't understand it. So I just went to basic training, basically, like after the holidays. It was strange. I still don't know why I did it. I just did it. I went into the careers office. They convinced me very well to do it, and I think the next at least 6 years were me just being convinced to do things. And I would just do them until I like gained consciousness at a certain point. Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah.
Until your frontal cortex grew.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. Like I don't have any recollection of ever wanting to do it. It just happened. It just happened, and then I was there. Then I had like a year of basic training. Some places only have to do 14 weeks because I was so young. They basically put you into this like amalgamation of basic training and college. So it was called the Army Foundation College. And it was 40 something weeks anyway. Long ass time. An entire camp of like 15 and 16-year-olds just getting destroyed all the time. horrible, honestly. Crazy. I don't know how I got through it. I went there with. I got the train from my hometown all the way up to the north of the country to start. One kid from my school who thought he was like hot shit, and then two other kids from my town who I didn't know. I was the only one who made it out of basic training. I don't know how or why it just happened. Very strange. Yeah, strange times.
Interesting. And basic training. Now, when you went to apply for the military, did they already?
Mhm.
I'm assuming like there was some kind of a selection test that you'd have to do, and then they would tell you what positions you would be applicable for, or how does it work for you guys?
Yeah, so the bar must have been pretty low because you had to do a thing called a barb test. BARB. I very, 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 very vaguely remember it. This will probably show you. I don't remember it. Yeah, it was like logic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, weird logic thing. I don't remember it at all. I remember sitting in the office at a computer and having to do it. Um, I scored enough to be able to do anything, I think, um, which isn't like crazy, right? I could have just joined anything. I think I was interested in stuff to do with tanks and stuff to do with helicopters, and I didn't do any of that. I yeah, strange. I joined initially to join the artillery. So at basic training, the first 6 weeks, everybody wears the same cat badge. It was like the camp cat badge, and then after the first 6 weeks. So the first 6 weeks, you weren't allowed your mobile phone, and you didn't go home. So it was 6 weeks of solid, like breaking you down. Basically, they just destroy you for 6 weeks, shave your head like a monkey,
Mm-hmm.
and just destroy you for 6 weeks. And I think that's that. I think now looking back, that was the point. They basically, because you got to remember, they've got like 15 and 16-year-old people from all over the country coming together with testosterone through the roof. So they have to like level them all, I guess. Like just break them all down, flatten them, so then they can build them over the next, I don't know how many weeks after that, 36 or something. So I was going to join the artillery, and I think I was going to join it because they had a system at the time that was controlled with an Xbox controller, and I thought it was really cool.
Damn.
It was like an anti-air system. It was called a rapier. Rapier. Yeah, Google that. Rapier. Rapier artillery or something. Yeah. It's a big like droidica looking thing. So it looked cool as fuck. Like a big orb with like rockets on the side. Look, like it's every like 16-year-old kid's dream, basically, to operate one of these bad boys. Wait, let me see. Yeah, yeah, that one. That's the one. Yeah, how cool that looks. Doesn't that look cool?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what every 16-year-old boy would love to operate that thing, wouldn't they? Funnily enough, I never saw one of them ever in 12 years.
Like not even
Never.
sitting like in like a garage or something, like at or in a
Nope.
field or.
No, never saw one. Never ever saw one. Because
Wow.
what happened during basic training is I was convinced that I was too intelligent to join the artillery. Obviously, I probably wasn't. They would. I don't know what was in it for them. I don't know. Do they get like a payout for getting people to join? I don't really know. They convinced me that I was too smart to do that, and I should join the Royal Signals, which is all about like electronic warfare, radio systems, data systems. It was the techs of the army, basically. Um, yeah, Royal. Yeah, nice little. They have Jimmy. They have Mercury, the god Mercury. I think,
Mm.
like this. There's a cat badge. A lightning bolt. I think lightning bolt. I don't fucking even remember anymore. There he is. No lightning bolt. Made it up. Yeah, there he is. Certecito. Swift and sure in Latin, I think. I don't know. But yeah, I joined that actually. So I spent the next God knows how long working on radio detachments and pretty cool, actually. They're pretty fun, pretty enjoyable when I think back on it. There were some good times in Germany. Germany was my first posting, which I think was the best thing for me. I didn't do anything with it. I just think it was the best thing for me because it never happened again. The whole of Germany was closed down 2.5 years after I got there. So I enjoyed like the golden age of being in the army, I think, actually, at that time. It's like a Wild West out in Germany. It's pretty crazy.
What do you mean they closed down? Like they closed the bases that Britain had there?
Yeah, they withdrew. So they had this thing called the Ark Farewell Parade. I remember, I think Ark departed, ARRC, the Allied Rapid Reaction Corps. They withdrew from Germany or something.
Is it just like political
It should be like
reasons or financial or?
nah, I don't know. They never told us anything, did they? They just I ended up I was serving brownies to like US generals at some farewell parade. I don't fucking remember. Yeah, I had to wear. I remember they issued us with the new number 2 dress at the time. It was brand new. We were the first ones to wear it, and I was just walking around with like hoisin duck rolls and brownies and giving them to like Princess Anne was there. I don't know. But yeah, the point being is those like 2.5 years were just wild because we were in like a really foresty area of like West Germany, and we were just left alone. We were just left alone. Like we'd go on exercises randomly for like 2 weeks, where we'd just like me and like 2 other people would go in a Land Rover with a trailer, and we'd just drive like 5 hours into deep Germany wilderness, and just set up this detachment in the woods, and then just sit there for like 2 weeks. It was great.
Interesting. So like this was all part of the like the signals training. You guys like would you actually be intercepting information or?
No, it was all just practice. That was the strange thing. Is it was all kind of fake. We weren't really doing anything. We were just training all the time, and I never understood the need to do it. It was a bit weird. It's especially strange because none of the training you did was relevant for modern operations. Like modern operations weren't in the German forests, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They changed it actually about halfway through my time. They changed to start training for modern operations, like in the Middle East and stuff, rather than because the old training was very like archaic. It was very World War II. What if we get invaded? Because that's the thing. The British Army were very good, and well, they are like one of the best fighting forces on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But they were very good at fighting in their own country, but they never had to fight in their own country. So, you know, like where we were very very good at operating in British woodland, to the point where even our uniform was woodland DPM, but the desert is not a woodland, so it doesn't make any sense. Why are you trained like that? So they changed it. They started building all these training areas that had like fobs, like sand, like Hesco walled fobs to like mimic fobs in Afghan and Iraq and stuff. So that was good, I guess.
Interesting. So you guys would just like in your time in Germany, essentially go camping every like couple of weeks.
Yeah, camping and then drinking heavily. Yeah, like I said, it was like the Wild West. It didn't make any sense. So it totally made sense why they pulled out of Germany, because they paid us extra money to be there, which made no sense because it wasn't more expensive to live there at all. Arguably, it was cheaper. Yeah, but then that's when like the downfall of the army sort of happened when we pulled out of Germany, because when I first joined, it was like a life. It wasn't like a job. It was like a life. You're like committing. It's like a lifestyle, right? So that whole cliche of, oh, it's a lifestyle. It was a lifestyle. You'd live it. It was a life decision, not just a job. Then they started making a bunch of changes. So when I first joined, all your accommodation and your food was just taken out of your paycheck, and it was very, very, very cheap. You wouldn't even see it. You wouldn't even notice it. So no matter what, you were always fed good 3 good meals every day and always accommodated. But then what happened is, like most good things, it came to an end and they started to privatize slices of it, right? So they ended up privatizing all the catering. So now you had to pay for now you had to like go to a canteen and like pay for your food then and there. But obviously that then meant that, well, that was just the beginning of the end, really, because then you had like a bunch of cascading problems. Like, bear in mind, in Germany, everybody was in Germany. Nobody went home apart from on the holidays. So everyone was extremely social, really tight, like brothers, just how it should be, right? Like in the movies, right? Everybody was eating good. Everybody was going to eat together all the time because it was good quality food made by army chefs and it was paid for already. And then you come back to the UK at the exact same time they privatized catering. Now you have people going home every single weekend and not socializing. Some people don't even live on camp anymore, they just live off camp. They don't go to the canteen anymore to eat their food. They either don't eat, they eat shit, or they make their own food in the accommodation. So socialization out the window, good nutrition out the window. Yeah, it's just the beginning of the end. It's terrible, really.
Interesting. So you guys went from army chefs to Nando's in a generation.
Basically, not even Nando's. It was just diabolical food, really bad. Yeah, terrible. And then it was to the point where I think now they have civilians doing the recruiting as well. Like,
Weird.
crazy. Like the recruiting and the selection is all done by civilians as well. Which is crazy.
Huh.
Yeah.
That strikes me
No logic.
as a little concerning.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. I'm not in it anymore. Is that a cat behind you?
Yeah, that's my cat
Yeah.
Fancy. He's going ape shit. He's gonna be running around.
My cat's in bed right now. It's over there in a nest.
Oh, nice.
Sleep.
Yeah, he loves to run around the apartment. So in terms of your basic training, when you said they had to cut you down, because I have somewhat of an idea of what, like, let's say, like SEAL training is, because there's those like famous documentaries on YouTube. I think there's one famous one, like some Buds class. I forget the number. But this one of the units, they really did a good job of keeping the camera on them as much as they could to really capture like what these guys were going through. So I have a bit of an idea of what that's like. But in terms of you guys, like, what did that breakdown look like? I mean, besides like the early wake up times, all the stuff that like we've seen in movies. What is it that you saw there in your time?
Yeah, it was a lot of I don't know if they did it tactically, like if they were doing it, if it was all planned, they did it all on purpose. But bear in mind, this was in like 2007 as well, right? So this was before, like, you could still smoke at 16 in the UK then as well, and buy cigarettes, right? So it's a whole different time in the UK in general.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like DEI or whatever it's called didn't exist, right? Just didn't fucking exist. No one cared about you. You were just, they would just abuse you, right? Just all the time, just get abused. Like you got grown adults just outright bullying children, basically. That's what it was for like a whole year. I was getting bullied for a year, getting rushed. You know, woke up really early. They'd do like inspections on your lockers, and then just destroy your lockers in front of you. Like they were like throwing your fucking beds out the window and stuff. It was just ridiculous. This insane shit. Like they would just trash you on purpose. And looking back on it, I'd like to think it was all tactical and planned, so you all had like shared suffering. So you all became more cohesive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was so you all had a shared experience of suffering and hatred of the staff, and I think that was the plan. But when I was in that position years later, I was really nice because it was always my theory that, you know, 2 years later, I could be drinking with them at another unit when they've got out of training, right? So they could be your friends later down the line, and many were. In fact, I took my best man and a godfather to my children through radio training.
Oh wow!
When I was an instructor at the second stage of training, where you do your trade training, I did basic training, I did trade training. That whole thing was like 2 years almost, a year and a half. And then 3 years after that, so after Germany, is when I went back to trade training, but as an instructor. So I took him through his field training for trade training, and now he's like, I've got a bunch of Polaroids on my fridge, and he's in them Polaroids. So like, it matters. You gotta be nice to people. Right? You can't be a horrible person. It doesn't get you anywhere. All I think about them people, the staff at basic training, is that I fucking hate them. Like, to this day, I know their names and their faces, and I know that I hate them with passion because they were just not nice people. Yeah, it's crazy. It was a wild experience, like to go through as a child as well. Just especially back then when there was like no like policies to look after you, really. Yeah, just crazy. They had us like outside in the snow, just stood there for like hours, just because they could. It just don't make any crazy. Don't make any sense.
Wow.
But hey, I guess that's why makes you the man you are today, right? That's what they say.
It worked. I mean, it got you here,
I can
right?
stand, right? I can stand still for a long time now. So I'm good at that.
Very important if you want to work for the Royal Guard.
Exactly, which I definitely didn't want to do. So
actually, speaking of which, do you know anyone that that went for that position? Is it something? I'm guessing it's something that they recruit from the army, right?
yeah, well, you mean the guys who like march outside the palace and stuff, right?
Yeah, with the I forget the name, but the big hat that they have there.
The beefeaters, the beefeater hats and stuff. Yeah, so they are soldiers. They are infantry soldiers as well. So they are guardsmen. So you have, I'm trying to remember them. There's a bunch of guardsmen. They had like the Grenadier Guards, the Coldstream Guards, the Scots Guards, the Welsh Guards, the Fusiliers. No, not the Fusiliers. They had a bunch of guards, but then they also had ceremonial ones like the Life Guards, the Blues and Royals, all these people. So I think the ones that stayed around the palace, I don't remember. I think they were like called the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals. A lot of tank regiments did that as well, if I recall correctly. Like the tank regiments also did horses sometimes. There's a weird thing, a weird relationship. I'm not sure. I only knew one person who went in there, and funnily enough, that was Vinnie Jones's son. You know
Can't say
Vinnie
I'm
Jones,
familiar.
the actor. He was in like a bunch of British films. He was also a footballer.
No way. This Vinny Jones. Wow.
Yeah,
That's wicked.
so his son was in basic training with me.
Wow. I know him from Snatch mostly, but I've seen him in some other movies.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so his son was in basic training with me, and he was a fucking idiot. Honestly, just an idiot. I think like his dad was paying him money if he passed and stuff. He didn't care for it. He wasn't in like my squadron or anything.
Mhm.
But yeah, I got told that he wasn't very good, and then I met Vinnie Jones. So on my pass out parade, at the very end, I had to take some stuff back to this building, and he was in that building, and I said hello to him, and he blanked me completely.
Oh
Uh,
no.
yeah, bearing in mind, I was like 16. We'd watched his movies,
Obviously,
like
yeah.
at basic training, like at weekends. We'd watched his movies together in the common rooms and stuff. And I meet him, and I'm like, oh my god, it's Vinnie Jones. And he doesn't care.
Man.
Yeah, he's a hater. Vinnie Jones is a massive hater.
That's a bummer. Now I got that impression of him.
Yeah, well, actually today, I got British celebrity, uh, not revenge, but I joined a space today, a random space. This like
Mhm.
creator space. It happens like every day, I think. I joined it, and this woman was talking, and it was Katie Weissel, and she was. So you can literally go on Google and type in the top one. Yeah, her. That picture doesn't really show her very well. If you just like Google that name and go on like images or whatever, you'll see the one. She's like a British icon, and like this space was like full of Americans, and none of them knew who she was. Uh, she was like on X Factor. X Factor is like American Idol,
Yeah,
I
basically, yeah.
guess, is the best way. But it was like the first one
Mm.
that happened. Like it was Simon Cowell's show that he made like 20 years ago, whatever, however long it's been going on for. It's not on anymore, I don't think. But she was like in the golden age of doing that, and then she was on like BBC and stuff. So she's like a really, at least to me, like millennials, she's like a British icon. I
Mhm.
joined this space. I go to speak on the space, and me and her are like talking. And then she like about like our kids and like their use of technology and short form content. And then she follows me, and I was like, "Damn, this is crazy." It
That's
really is
awesome.
everything. It really is the everything app, isn't it?
That's incredible. Wow. What are the chances? You know, because you never like in your day-to-day life, unless you somehow bumped into her, you know?
No. Well, I was telling someone this earlier in another group chat. Like that was the original appeal of this platform, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Like the original appeal of Twitter was that you could just talk to celebrities. Like there's no filter between you and them. Like they can. It wasn't like MySpace and when you could like comment on their page and they'd never do anything.
Mm.
Like they can post something onto the timeline and then people can comment and then they can comment back. And it was a real like crazy experience in the early days of being able to do that.
Wow, that's awesome. Can't say I've met a single celebrity on X. Maybe like joined a space or something, but don't think I've really interacted with anyone. I think Brian Johnson is probably the closest that I've gotten, but I mean that guy
Yeah,
talks to
Brian
everyone.
Johnson's like he's like in Teapot now.
Yeah, which kind of like
That's like
makes sense.
it's a dangerous thing though. Like I feel like once you communicate with one person in Teapot, that's you. You're fucked. Like, you're in. You're in after that. Like even Notch is like in Teapot now.
I heard, yeah, with his Minecraft 2 announcement, a lot of people came in and they started interacting with
Mm.
him. Yeah, it's weird. I stumbled onto the space because there were some creators like near where I live, like some devs and independent contractors that kind of work in the tech scene that I was kind of following. And then also, yeah, seeing he's Canadian, he's from Ottawa, so like that popped in my algo, and I never knew what it was, and people started using this word, and I'm like, wait, but that term is relative. Like every part of Twitter is teapot technically, but it still has its own like weird, cohesive like identity. Like you could tell who is teapot and who isn't, even though it's such an ambiguous term.
Yeah, it's strange. It really is. Tuna dragged me into Teapot. I communicated with him randomly. It was because I was originally in like the wider tech Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one that's full of just fake people talking absolute nonsense all the time, not doing anything. And then Tuna did something. He did one of his very first posts, even vaguely mentioning the situation around resumes and hiring. Then I commented like, "Oh, I was an engineering manager for like 3 years, and everybody's terrible." DM'd, and then we created this big Discord, and then that started the whole like operation hiring thing with me, him, and Rook, and then the rest was history. Now I was fucking stuck in Teapot, and I can't even get out. I've tried. I've genuinely tried. You can't get out. It doesn't work.
Why would you want to leave? It's such a great place to be.
Well, if people in it is, but businesses aren't in Teapot. You know, like big ones. But if you wanna bump shoulders with potentially high ticket clients, they don't exist here.
This is true. It's more of the startup and indie space more than anything.
Which is fine, because I've had probably 9 clients from X, most on the fringes of Teapot. Obviously, true Teapot, most of them are like 17-year-olds, right? So they don't really have businesses. They don't really have like startups. They don't have funding to like pay designers, right? So
interesting. Now in regards to Tuna, I know that both of you guys do jujitsu. And it
yes,
says on your profile that you're a purple belt, and at least from what Joe Rogan says, that apparently that's like that's the hardest level to get to, because apparently the next step to black belt, it's all about consistency and keeping that rhythm going. I've heard nothing but
that's what
positive
they
things
say.
about BJJ, but what's your experience been like?
Yeah, that's what they say. They say like purple is just a black belt that needs a bit more time. That's all. My experience. So I started in 2009 or 10, I think, in Holland. I went to a gym across the border into Holland. It was in Roermond, Roermond, and I took like all the classes there. So I did like an MMA class 3 times a week. They did a jiu-jitsu class, an MMA class, and a Thai class. And the jiu-jitsu coach there was Remco Pardol, who was actually in UFC 1 and 2. Like some big ass guy. No, the name is no, not him. Pardol. Remco. That's the one. That's how you spell it. That Pardol. Yeah. He's like some absolute unit of a Dutch guy.
And they're big people too. They're very tall.
Yeah, and this guy's like an absolute unit. He's massive. He was the one who'd just like elbow people to death in like UFC 1. He was a crazy guy.
Holy shit.
But he was like my first coach. I didn't know who he was at the time. Yeah, this big guy.
Whoa.
That's him, like very young, obviously. But look at him. He's like towering above the octagon. He's like a huge guy.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I had him. So I trained for a bit. I did like a competition or whatever, and then when I came back to the UK, jiu-jitsu didn't really exist. like in the UK. You're talking like 2012. It was very, very, very underground and like niche. So there wasn't like now there's an abundance of gyms everywhere. Like absolutely everywhere there's just gyms. And well, actually, I have a. Where's it going to be? I'll be buried somewhere. Won't be able to find it. Maybe. Let me quickly search. Google Images is good because you can just search for like Jiu-Jitsu. No. Wait, that's Apple. Wait, let me search in Google Images. Where's that? Where are you? Ah, here we go. I'll try anyway. I'll see if this image is in here. It might not be. Get back. No, isn't there? When I came back to the UK, there wasn't any gyms. Not like now. Like now, like my gym down here, within like a bus distance, there's like 5 gyms. So it's way more open now. So I started again when I met my wife, like 7 years ago. Started again, and then been relatively consistent. Apart from lately, I'm not very consistent lately. But yeah, got blue. She was ahead of me by 1 belt. So when we met, she was a blue belt. So she then got purple, and then I got blue. And then we were both purple at the same time. I got my purple while she was still purple. And then like 5 months later, she got her brown belt. So she's a brown belt and a judo black belt. And
Whoa.
I'm just, yeah, she did judo like her whole childhood as well. So she was pretty good at that. Now she's a brown belt. Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. She'll be a black belt in like a year, I reckon. Maybe.
So she wins all the arguments.
No. Nah. She's like a whole foot. I've got like 40 kilos on her. She's not even close. She's very small.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm pretty sure she could destroy any like untrained male, but no, it doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, she could probably take me apart. I have no martial arts background whatsoever. I did capoeira once as a kid, but even like it's not even what I would say like not like legitimate martial art, but it's not one that I think is useful in training if you actually want to like learn, I don't know, technique or like self-defense. It's very flashy, very acrobatic.
Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu is weird. Like Joe Rogan goes on like, oh, I could kill you kind of thing. That's true, but he wouldn't be using jiu-jitsu to kill you. He'd be wrestling you down probably, and then probably striking you. He wouldn't. It's not. I actually saw an interesting video earlier where it was this guy saying like, anytime there's a fight, anytime a fight breaks out at a jiu-jitsu competition, they don't use jiu-jitsu. Like, they're not fighting each other with jiu-jitsu. They end up punching each other. So yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I think especially like purple and above, when you've been doing it for like a long time, you definitely have the confidence to like be able to just restrain people, like 100%, like definitely, and like, what's the right word?
Subdue
You
them?
have more like, yeah, but you have more control over your own body as well, like weight distribution and stuff, right? So I think I think like the average purple belt would beat most untrained people, I think. Well, even if they were trained at a white and blue belt level, they'd beat them as well, obviously. But yeah, it's a strange one. It's very good for it was very good for me leaving the army, because what I didn't notice was, so I was doing jiu-jitsu again at the end of my time in the army, and then I kept doing it all the way until COVID, and then COVID obviously stopped people going to gyms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized that like I really needed it, like the whole physical like bonding and that kind of thing, right? Because like in the army, you were living very close to people all the time. You always had people around you, and then jiu-jitsu is obviously like very intimate, I guess is the right word. And then when you don't have that, you're like, oh yeah, I have problems, I guess. So yeah, it's good for that, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And in regards to your experience in jiu-jitsu, have you ever like gone to competitions, or is it just you keep within the gym?
Yeah, I did. I haven't done one at purple. I got my purple belt. I have it on the fridge. 19th of December, 2023. So I've had my purple belt for like 14 months. No, yeah, like 13 months now. I haven't done one at purple. I did a bunch at white and blue. I never won. I always got silver. I learned pretty fast that I didn't care too much. I didn't care as much as the other person cared.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't necessarily that I was. I mean, certainly sometimes I was just beaten. A lot of the time it was I would try really hard, get to the final, and then just be happy to be there, kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm in the final. That's great. That's better than most people, right? But then the other person had the complete opposite mentality, and they were like, I'm gonna get gold. So I would typically get destroyed pretty fast. Not really try too hard, I guess. So yeah, I soon realized that I don't really have. That's probably like part of the army thing as well. Is like you have the whole like controlled aggression thing. I think my aggression is so controlled that I just don't use it anymore. Like I don't. There's no requirement for me to use any aggression ever, really. So I just don't. Like I'm not going to get injured winning a medal that I've paid for as well. You know, I've paid to
Mm-hmm.
enter the competition. I'm not going to injure myself just to do that because the injuries can like really debilitate you. Like my left ankle, I popped that August 20 August 2023. I popped my ankle, and it always pops now, all the time. It's like permanently like damaged, so it's not great.
And do you find that that there was a lot of people that kind of shared your circumstances with that they went into the army and they wanted like an extension of it once they got out, so they went to martial
Mhm.
arts? Do you see a lot of people that were in that kind of similar situation?
Yeah, there's like two that I know of at my gym, and at a previous gym there was a few as well. But there's a whole reorg. There's a whole charity set up around it in the UK. Tom Hardy's like one of their spokesmen, like things. He's a purple belt as well.
That's right, yeah, because he
He
does
competes
do
a lot.
BJJ.
He does competitions as well. Yeah, he's very good by all accounts. But he's like a spokesperson for this jiu-jitsu charity, which is focused around. Well, they focus more on like Marines because it was started by a Marine, but their whole thing is like a lot of gyms. Like, we'll put it this way: my gym now, I pay less membership because I'm a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of gyms will offer veteran discount. So I guess it's like a common thing um, to get them in.
Makes sense that that a lot of people would be attracted to that that sort of thing. Because personally, I don't know what the army layout or culture looks like in Canada. Um,
Mm.
it's a little bit weird here because, like, I remember I had a friend in uni that was part of the reserves, and that was essentially like a unit that they would deploy for natural disaster relief. Like one year we had really bad flooding in Quebec, our French province. And I remember we were hanging out, drinking, and then all of a sudden he gets a text at like 9 p.m. and his staff sergeant or whomever was like, "Hey, gonna need you guys tomorrow, so better get here at 6 a.m. or whenever they needed to." So we had to cut the night out early, and he left. And when I spoke to him, he's like, "Yeah, no, this is just something I do, kind of like a volunteering, I guess, in a way, because he's not like stationed somewhere. He's still going to classes, still a civilian. But when he gets that call, he's got to go."
Yeah, they have reserves here, but we don't have many natural disasters in the UK, so I
Right.
don't think. Yeah, the reserves here, they used to be called the TA, Territorial Army. Now they're called the reserves. Um, it's always an option to join them when you leave, because they do pay you as well. Um, especially when you have a full-time job. Like your employer is like mandated to release you to like do paid training and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever want to have to like I guess I don't want to have to like conform like ever again. I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind of done with having my appearance controlled and stuff. It's fucking weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, that's a fair reaction to have, I think, because it's one thing to face it in like school or from your family, right? You have an out in either one, or you could at least like rebel to an extent. But in the army, I would assume they have a no bullshit policy when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, or at least it was. Yeah, that's one thing you don't really think about. Is like they just completely control everything. Really, like you can't. Everybody wears the same clothes. It's kind of weird. Really, you all wear the same clothes. You all have the same haircuts. Can't have beards. Very strange. Clean shaven every day. Super weird.
Speaking of crashing out, did you see any incidents while you were there of people that just they weren't able to handle the pressure?
Yeah, but they kind of get rooted out because it spreads, doesn't it? There was somebody. What was it? Not really. I don't think. In Iraq there was. So in Iraq we were in Kuwait and Iraq. Kuwait's like right on the border of Iraq, right?
Mm-hmm.
Southern border. But like all the US are like stationed in Kuwait. They have like hangars just full of tanks. Like Jarhead. Jarhead, they were in Kuwait, right,
Mm-hmm.
waiting to go to Iraq. That's literally what it was. So like all like the important stuff for the Iraq invasion, I guess, was in Kuwait. And it still is. And we were there for most of the time, and then I went to Iraq for a couple of months, and then came back to Kuwait. And there was like a young guy with us in Kuwait, and he was just a bit weak. Really, he was like crying that he missed his girlfriend and stuff. Just, I don't know, that kind of stuff. That spreads. You don't want that. Like we had like people with kids and like married people with us. They didn't need to hear that kind of stuff. He crashed out pretty hard, and he ended up getting sent home early. And then he ended up crashing out so hard that he just left the army. He just got like discharged, like pretty fast. That was crazy.
Interesting. And when you served over there, from what you can share, um,
Mm-hmm.
what was it like to be in that kind of environment? Because I would assume that like going from urban or like semi-urban Britain with the climate and everything, now having to go into like complete polar opposite, that's a change in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, Kuwait was very hot. Like, so I was there from like January till June, and I was in Iraq like 3 months in the second, third, crossing to the third. So like I had a lot of heat in Kuwait. That was crazy. Like you'd open. We were in like air conditioned, like outside ISO container office kind of things.
Hmm.
And you'd open the door and it'd be like opening an oven in your face. Just like it was real crazy how hot it was. Um, yeah, strange, very strange. Iraq was very strange as well. Iraq was like, even though they were really close, Iraq wasn't as hot at all. Uh, and like all the like the air quality is like really bad. So like you don't get sunburnt or tanned or anything. It's really weird.
Hmm.
Like the sun is like on you all the time, but I don't know. I don't think any of the UV rays like get through. Even though it's like bright blue sky all the time and sun and it's hot, it's not doing anything. It's a very strange place. Mm.
Weird. What were the
Yeah,
civilians like? Because from what I hear, um, a lot of the kind of like social relations in that region, um, especially in places like Kazakhstan and where I was actually originally born in Uzbekistan, they just have a very like open doors policy when it comes to guests. Obviously, that would
yeah, they were really nice.
yeah.
Yeah, they were really nice. Yeah, there was a lot, especially in Kuwait. There was a lot of like contractors on camp and stuff, like doing like laundry and waste disposal and whatever, just as like workers, general workers. They were super nice. Um, and in Iraq, there was like the occasional contractor and like translator and stuff, and they were super nice. Because when I went there in like 2017, it wasn't the same as it was like during the invasion and stuff, right?
Hmm.
It wasn't like um, there was still pockets of ISIS everywhere, and when I was there, they did the attack on Mosul when I, so it very much was still an operation. But where I was, like northeast of Baghdad, they were just training. Um, they were just training Iraq soldiers how to like do good stuff, I guess, like IEDs and everything. So the infantry that I was, they weren't being infantry. They were training people. Yeah, they planned. It was like 2017. They retook it or something.
I see. And in regards to the training that you guys did with the units there, the only exposure I've had is there's this one infamous video. I don't know if it was Iraq or Afghanistan, but the American Army is essentially trying to help educate them on basic drills, and they have these guys lined up doing jumping jacks, and it's just, I mean, like no coordination whatsoever. Um,
Yeah,
but from what you saw down there, what was the local force like?
fine. I mean, they wanted to help. They wanted to be there. I guess. Yeah. I mean, they're obviously they weren't like a rigid, disciplined army like the Brits and stuff, but they were fine. They were nice people. I don't know where it is. It's not here. It's upstairs. I have this really nice leather um, notebook cover. That one of them, I paid him money, and he took it away to a market and got like the spine, got my name put on the spine, and it has like the Iraq flag on the back, like the Iraq country outline on the back. It's all
Hmm.
like intricate designs. That's pretty cool. They're super nice, very nice people.
Yeah, I
Funnily
basically
enough,
expected.
it's always the people that aren't involved that have strong opinions. Like funnily enough, uh, but everything that I saw was like relatively positive. Apart from when I was flying back out, like when I flew in, I got um, I got a plane. I don't know what it was. One of the American planes, like the classic, the ones you fucking jump out of in Warzone. That kind
Hmm.
of plane, right?
Hmm.
But like a slightly fractionally bigger. I don't know what it's called. It's not a C-17, maybe. I don't fucking know. We flew in on one of them, straight from Kuwait to Baghdad, and that was like really chill, straight, like half an hour flight if that. Yeah. One of them, I think. Yeah, pretty big.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, I don't know. It was like 5 years ago, 8 years ago now. When we flew out, they didn't go straight back. They did like a tour around Iraq. Like I don't know why, and I think they picked people up at one point. But then when we flew over like Western Iraq, the plane just like dive bombed, and they said, I didn't hear it. They said there was like small arms fire shooting towards the plane from like the ground, which they could have been, very realistically could have been. But they dive bombed, and it was fucking horrible. Like I'd never experienced like any sort of G-force ever in my life, and it just freezes you and you cannot move.
Mm-hmm.
It was terrible, and I felt sick as a dog after that. Like for the rest of the flight, it was horrific. That was easily like one of the worst experiences of my life. Was that flight? It took hours. It was like 4 hours we were like in that plane just flying around Iraq before it went back to Kuwait. Wild.
So you'd never been on a roller coaster before then, like no amusement park rides.
Yeah,
like
but yeah. But this was like sustained. This was like the plane just like nosedived essentially, and it just you can't move. Like the roller coasters are just like, oh, your stomach goes up. Oh, it's all fun.
Mm.
This was not. This was like fucking you up. It's like hardcore. It was not fun.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So, in your time there, from what I understand, so you were there for the development and I guess like lack of a better word, come up of ISIS, and as it peaked and all that, you were essentially stationed in that region for the majority of it.
Yeah. Well, ISIS were around. Daesh, I guess they were called. They were around that period, yeah. But I spent most of my time on that tour in Kuwait at like the headquarters because I was signals, so we handled all of like the communications in and out and stuff, which was fun. That was nice. It was enjoyable. Kuwait was good. That was like a Disneyland, like the massive American camp. Crazy.
Like Disneyland?
I got yeah, they had everything. I got big. It was called like Camp Arifjan. So like Arifjan. There's two bases, but this will be one of them. Arifjan, Camp Arifjan. I don't know if it'll have any photos of the base. I'm not sure, but it was like it had like cinemas and shit.
Whoa! Like full-fledged like movie theaters, like not just like tents and like fold-out chairs.
Well, in between, but it had like a Pizza Hut. Yeah, it's fucking Chili's.
Oh my god! Because I've heard of this meme
Yeah.
that the U.S. has a combat-ready Burger King ready to be stationed anywhere around the globe, and it just like pops out like a fucking bouncy castle and just inflates. But I'd never seen this before. This is wild.
Yeah, they got crazy stuff there. So like, I was in like this like professional part of camp where like they were actually doing things. But then like bearing in mind like Americans were there for like a whole year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like working hard. To be fair, like some of them, the ones that I worked with, but they were there working hard, like actually doing a good job and stuff. But they had like a Pizza Hut. Like when I flew over to Iraq the night before, we had Pizza Hut. It's looking crazy.
Wow.
I got my Security Plus certification there as well.
Wow.
Like
That is
the CompTIA one, yeah, because like they had like this little mini like university thing there. So like on nights, I went to night class for like 3 weeks and got my Security Plus certification from the Americans for free. That's pretty cool.
Wow. I
It was
never.
great actually. I was in this like tiny pocket of that camp, like right in the north of it, called the Coalition Compound. It was like this tiny little compound that had like a little building for the US, a little building for the Australians, for the French, for the Italians. It was cool, man. I made some good friends there. Like, I made really good friends with like one Australian guy and one American guy. And it was like a bad joke. It's like the three of us walking around. Crazy time, man. It was it was actually really good, that camp. Going to Iraq was shit, but Kuwait was great. I vividly remember like going to Iraq and eating like absolute shit for like months, just like terrible food, like stale cereal and warm milk, and like
Ugh.
sometimes the Italian, it was a Spanish camp, a Spanish-owned fob. They'd just serve you like raw chicken sometimes. It was fucking diabolical. So you're
Oh
living
my
off like
god.
protein powder, like protein shakes and stuff. But then when I flew back to Kuwait, our drivers picked us up from the Kuwait airport, took us to the camp, and then took us to the canteen thing. And I had like fucking pancakes and bacon and egg, donuts. It's crazy. I got to like 120 kilos while I was there.
That's massive.
I not fat either. I was going to the gym like 3 times a day. I was getting up at midnight and having like chicken sandwiches and shit. Crazy. Yeah, I got big, and I got big when I was there.
Wow. Because
Yeah,
I'd
I
never
think
seen the scope
I
of this.
watched Rogue One, I think, when I was there. Did Rogue One come out in like 2017? Let's see. Rogue One 2016. Yeah, so I watched Rogue One out there in a cinema. Weird.
So were you I guess were you there like near the US election in 2016? Were you there around the time, or were you back home?
Yeah. So actually, when I was doing pre-deployment training, I remember sat in a hotel. I was somewhere in the UK doing a course, like some new radio system course or something.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the hotel when Trump got elected. Yeah, first time.
Interesting. And what was the reaction on base? I mean, I know that there has
Uh,
to be some separation between like politics and the army and whatnot, but I'm sure that
I don't.
people had reactions.
The only vibe I picked up was they were like delaying changing the pictures,
Of
like
the
in like all the
presidents?
canteens. Yeah, like in all the canteens, they'd have like when you walk in, they'd have like all like the commanders of the camp pictures,
Mm.
and then at the top they'd have like the U.S. president. So it was still Obama for like a while, then they changed it to Trump. I didn't really pick up any negative. I didn't care, obviously. It didn't bother me.
Mm.
Well, actually,
Wow.
no. He did bomb a Syrian airfield when I was in Iraq, and they were worried that the ISIS were gonna retaliate to all US forces in Iraq, so we all had to put on like respirators and shit for like 6 hours. That's pretty terrible.
In case of like a chemical attack, or
Yeah, yeah. Nothing happened, but
Mhm.
yeah. Actions have consequences. Funnily enough, you can't just bomb airfields from America and think it's okay.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, crazy. From what I remember, that was quite what's the word? Uh, not divisive. If
Polarizing?
something is like, yeah, I guess controversial
Mm-hmm.
is the word. That airfield attack was very controversial, from what I remember. Um, I don't know why. Yeah, crazy times.
Interesting. What do you do they still have that base still in Kuwait to this day, or
I imagine so. Yeah. I tell you what, I remember there was some US civilians working there, and they were just living the dream, like because they had like American systems there, like computer systems.
Mm.
So we had to get accounts on them systems. So we'd have to go and see these Americans, and we got chatting to a few of them over time because we'd have to like go see them regularly, and they were like paid. I think I remember them saying they were getting like $100,000 a year, but it was tax free and everything was paid for. So they didn't have to. They literally didn't have to spend a single penny while they were there, and they were there for 2 years. 2 years. Civilians, American civilians. They were basically sysadmins, right?
Yeah.
And there was a couple. There was a couple there. So this couple were taking home $400,000 tax free in them 2 years as a couple, with no expenses, no outgoings at all. I think they said their plan was to like just buy a property outright when they get home, which I
Wow.
assume by now they've done, obviously. So good for them. I remember trying to get back there actually, like as a civilian, when I left as well. I was like, damn, that'd be good. Going there as a civilian, all expenses paid. That'd be crazy. Didn't happen though. So
Well, that explains why they have such a huge budget for the military. I mean, not entirely, but man, like you could just shell out 100K tax free to sysadmins.
for a sysadmin, yeah, that's it. That's all they were doing. Just sysadmin, literally like junior sysadmin as well.
Wow,
Crazy.
that is
Yeah,
wild.
literally just creating accounts and changing passwords. That was it. Yeah.
Hey, look, someone's got to
Crazy.
know how to plug in the HDMI cable. All right, someone's got to know how to set up the projector.
Yeah. That was a common thing that I found over there is that, especially with the Americans, is that one task would have one whole human attached
Mm.
to it. There was no, oh, this person does all these things. It was like I remember like we'd go see our American counterparts. So there'd be like two of us, like me and my sergeant or whatever, and we'd go and see these Americans, and we'd get patched around like 10 different people on the journey to like achieving a task. It was crazy. Yeah, massive like overcommitment of resources, but no, not my budget. So
Yeah, they could afford to specialize, I guess.
yeah, well that's the thing. They were cared for a lot more as well. Like I remember when I did Security Plus, the reason why that was happening is because the Americans they needed the civilian qualifications relevant to their job to promote in their careers,
Mm.
which is obviously good for them when they get out of the army because they'll literally have all the civilian qual. There was guys doing like CISP and stuff out there. They were like in Kuwait for a year, going to the cinema, eating good food, and just doing like high level tech qualifications for free. Fucking crazy, living the dream.
Yeah, that could be really enticing to someone that's looking to jumpstart their career. I'm not surprised that so many people find a career in the army if it's kind of laid out like that. Even from what little you've told me, just in your experience.
I mean, I don't think they at the time the vibe I was getting was like they don't spend a long time in the army like us.
Hmm.
Like it was at least back then it was regular for people to like do 12 years at least in the army. But the Americans weren't doing that, I don't think. At least the friend that I made out there, he was only a specialist when I was there, and that's pretty low, I think. Um, and I spoke to him like a year after, and he was already out of the army.
Interesting.
So he'd
Uh,
got qualified and then just left.
and so in your time there, did you? Well, because I guess they would separate the units out. but did you ever interact with anybody that was like, I don't know, CIA or like spook adjacent or like Fed, like that kind of vibe? Did you ever meet or interact with those kind of people?
Yeah, they had like a whole like SF operations area that we went to sometimes, but I never really like spoke to them. No, never really saw them. No, I remember going to see like a special forces person, but like US special forces are like not the same caliber. You could like anyone. There was like random people with it just like on their arm, just like literally said like special forces.
Hmm.
I don't think that means what you think it means.
What does it mean in terms of the British Army?
I mean, the SAS don't walk around telling people they're in the SAS, do they? And stuff. It's much more like, I guess, well, they attempt to be somewhat anonymous.
More
That
clandestine.
wasn't quite the case there. Yeah, more trying to just like exist and not announce to the world, I guess.
Gotcha. And is that like the equivalent of like the American Marine or?
No, I wouldn't say so. Probably like the SEALs, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that kind of stuff anymore. I don't. I've been out for like, well, I got out November 2018, so what's that? 6 years, six and a bit years ago,
Hmm.
6.5 round up. Time's flying.
On a side note, I don't know if you heard today, but apparently the UK has entered into a 100-year agreement with Ukraine. Did you hear about this?
100 years of what?
I'm not sure myself, but let me just pull this up here.
To be friends. Be friends for 100 years.
I guess, and what really struck me is like I don't think I've ever even heard of such an agreement happening between countries. I understand the timing of it, with the current conflict and everything, but it just really struck me as weird, um, that they would make such a long-term
It's
commitment because it's so like it's one thing to
security.
dictate what's going to happen in the next 4, 5, 6 years, but for 100 years, it just
I
seems.
mean, we're all going to be. Everybody that made that agreement will be dead.
Hmm.
So it's a bit weird. What's the point? Economic military support. Oh, great. 100 years. NATO membership. He's expressed support for their eventual NATO membership. But didn't Putin say if NATO get involved, he'll just like destroy everyone? Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, that's the red line that he's drawn, from my understanding. That if Ukraine joins NATO, then I mean, at that point, it's all out war. I mean, they are essentially fighting a proxy war right now. They're just not publicly announcing it. They're saying it that it's the Ukraine war when, even like just from my perspective, it just looks like a U.S. and NATO war, and Ukraine is just the proxy for it. But no, when I saw this agreement today, it struck me as very weird because I don't really. I've heard of like certain commitments, billions of dollars here and there, but like 100 years to me, that just it's a very strange signal. I'm not sure what they're trying to say with all this.
I don't know. And the fact that I didn't hear about it just shows how much we don't really care for politics here too much. Yeah, I don't know what that means. It is midnight here now, by the way. So I
Oh
am
yeah,
probably gonna have to go shortly.
fair enough. I appreciate you taking the time regardless. I know that being a family man, very busy schedule. So thank you for coming on.
Fine, everybody's asleep now, so I'll go to bed and then tomorrow I have like Tuesdays and Fridays now. I have stay-at-home dad time, so I don't work. I casually work Tuesday Fridays.
Nice. That must be a good break.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's fine. Like right now, it's like now I just sent off mood boards to a client. They've come back saying what they like. So I haven't started drawing concepts for the logo design yet. But that means tomorrow I can like, with like a notepad, I can like casually sketch some stuff while I'm watching fucking Cocomelon or whatever. And then
Peppa Pig.
I have to go to I have to go to a dance class at 10 o'clock as well, which is always fun. Get to go there and play with puppets. Can
Oh, lovely.
I'm the only man there as well, obviously, so it's even more awkward.
Extra fun. Yeah, being a big burly guy with fucking beard down to your tits.
Yeah, and there's just always women that like know each other, always mums that know each other, and I'm just there like, my daughter's like, oh, come play with me, and I'm just sat there like playing with rubber ducks and stuff. It's
That's
fun.
an image.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Fantastic. Well, hey, you have fun with that, and once again, thanks for coming on. If people want to find you, it's just at Grapplingdev on X. Do you have any other socials?
Yeah, I've got everything, I think, and it's all under the same handle for everything, like YouTube, Instagram, fucking Blue Sky, everything. It's all Grappling Dev.
Perfect. Yeah. So check them out, guys. Well worth a follow. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again sometime on the podcast. Love talking to you.
Likewise.
All right. Well, everyone, have yourself a good night, and we'll see you later.